Hi, everyone. You are watching The Self Connection with Ginny Brown and Kelly Pietro, where we have conversations with a group of ascended masters known as the Multitude of the Greater Good.
The multitude of the greater good is a group of spiritual healers and teachers. They are ascended masters and have lived on the earth plane many lifetimes in order to achieve that sense of self and being. In our estimation, here they go. We can tell you, my dear, that we are completing a process as you are completing a process, and we are most pleased to be a part of your journey. We can tell you that your goal of acceptance of self is quite honorable, and in our estimation, you are doing beautifully. We would also like to add that those of your viewers who are interested in allowing themselves the growth required in order to allow themselves to be more of who they are on the earth plane are most welcome to accept our gift of love and care. Do not be concerned.
All
Okay.
right, jumping right in.
So the multitude, their goal is to help you become a better you, if you could not understand that from what they were saying. And that's why we bring these videos to you to help you understand a little bit more about spirituality and one's own personal self, one's own personal connection to the all that is. Do not be concerned, my dears. You are doing beautifully in your knowing, and you are allowing all that is required to come to you. We would highly recommend, however, that each of you that are listening to our essay of being understand that the goal is yours, the objective is yours, the ability is yours, and you are able to move from there quite easily. Therefore, we would highly recommend that you take 5 minutes per day and breathe. Just quietly, sit quietly, and breathe. And all is love. Okay.
Yeah, well, I think I know why they're saying that. What they just said was actually bigger than it sounded.
Okay.
It's a message of empowerment, you know. There's a lot of victimhood energy in the collective that I'm seeing right now. And that's evident through conspiracy theories that are um
I got running rampant.
yeah. And it's funny because I think, we've used a few episodes to try to like set the record straight on a lot of them, bring truth. I'm a truth seeker, but as I said to you, Ginny, before we started recording, is like I'm becoming less curious and just trying to stay focused on being content with what is. Um, and my curiosity usually peaks when I hear something of a theory, and it's like, hang on a second, I don't know if that's fully true the way it's being outlined or the way people are talking about it. And a lot of these narratives are very disempowering. Like we are victims of a system, or when really we are way more powerful than we think. And even if any of these narratives are true, we still do have our own power. And so, I think that the nature of social media is designed to be addictive and entrap us in disempowering cycles and content that is these types of narratives.
Our own knowing.
Yeah, it takes us away from our own knowing and puts us into something else. So, what would the multitude like to share with us about that?
It is important to understand that there is much to be shared and much to be learned. We can tell you that when one is able to access themselves and allow themselves to understand that they're the ones in charge, that they have the ability to move themselves forward, they are the ones that are allowing themselves the connection with the all that is, with themselves in spirit, and with those parts of themselves that are requiring healing. We would like you all to understand that as you move forward in your knowing and in your trusting of yourself, of being, that you will allow yourself to move forward quite beautifully. When one insists that there is another in charge, one cannot move forward. It is important to understand that when one is strong within one's own self, one's own knowing of being, and one's ability to move forward. One is able to share oneself with another. One is also able to receive that which is right for them. Do not be concerned.
Yeah, I think that's a very empowering message.
Yeah, it's not to give yourself away. Don't give your power away to something or someone else, um, including spiritual things that people uh, um, might believe that are more powerful than they are because they are not more powerful than they are, but to allow oneself uh, to trust that each one knows what each one needs and each one allows those parts to resonate with oneself to move oneself forward.
Yeah,
It's I guess that's my thought, but it's also influenced by the multitude. So sometimes there's
yeah.
separation here.
Yeah, I think, well, you just brought up something that's interesting that I'm feeling like it might be good to explore. Like you said, we're more powerful, even more than other spirits, beings in spirit. And like I know a lot of people will pray to archangels, they'll pray to Jesus, they'll pray to uh the Buddha or whatever. Or gods and goddesses, Kali and Freya, or I don't know, whoever. It depends on what pantheon you're working within, I guess. And what you just said is we're more powerful. Is it because we're in charge of ourselves? And like those beings, we could ask for help, but really what's happening is we're bringing our own energy to ourselves. Like, what's the difference of asking for help from another being versus pulling more of yourself to yourself, like
Well,
yourself
one
in
thing
spirit?
I know that the multitude has taught is that we are more powerful being on the earth plane. We have the power. And like you said, we can ask for help. And we've also made arrangements for help because earth is not an easy path. We can tell you, my dear, you are doing all that is required to allow the all that is. When it is that someone is requiring more help, when it is that they are on the earth plane, what is required is that they ask for help. They have arranged much in the way of help before coming to the earth plane. And on the earth plane, they are in charge of when it is that they allow that help to come forward. Sometimes there are those who know it is available, and sometimes there are those who believe that all there is themselves on the earth plane. Themselves on the earth plane are quite powerful indeed. However, it is important to understand that help is always available. Help is that part of oneself that says, hey, I'm here on the earth plane and I don't know which way to go from here. I don't know to go left. I don't know to go right. I don't know to go up or down. In our estimation, when it is that one is in such a quandary, it is wise of one to ask for help in whichever way they wish to ask. Sometimes it's prayer, sometimes it's meditation, sometimes it's just being with oneself, sometimes it is bringing one's own energy to the forefront, as there are many who would try to control another based on one's need of help. in our estimation, when one stands straight and tall in their own shoes and allows themselves to come forward in such a way that says, hey, I'm here in the earth plane, I'm doing what I've come to do. I'm learning, I'm being, I'm allowing, and sometimes even I'm teaching. Then one is able to say, okay, this is my limit. I don't know where to go from here. Please help me. One will get help. It is a matter of saying, please help me. I am no longer sure of my direction. In our estimation, that is all that is required.
Ask and it shall be given.
Yeah, I get that a lot. I'll ask for something and they'll say, it is given. It's like, that's what I hear.
I'm pretty sure that's a line in the Bible.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, well, where does surrender fall into play compared to asking for help?
It is important to understand that when one believes that one is all powerful on one's own and then comes to a place of unimaginable, um, excruciating pain or undesirable processes, one is able to give up and say, okay, I can no longer do this. That is the surrender. When one says, I'm on the earth plane, I don't know which direction to go from here, and one is not in a place of disengagement from self, one can just say, I need some help. And when one is open to receiving help, one will receive it one way or another, not be concerned.
Yeah, and I think for me, when I'm in that place of I don't know, I surrender to I don't know.
Yes.
And I ask for help. I need help. And I ask for whatever is in my highest and best. I ask for clarity and I ask for that which is for my highest and best to be revealed.
It is
Yeah.
important to understand that that is asking for help beautifully. When you can allow yourself to say, I don't know, I've gotten to a point where this is okay for me, but it's not really what I want. One is able to make a decision in some cases about what they want and then move oneself forward. When one cannot decide what it is that one wants, one is kind of stuck, so to speak. Then one is able to say, okay, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. That is a form of surrender, one might say. That is that part of self that says, I need help. I don't know how to attain it. And when one says, I don't know how to attain it, that is also a form of surrender. Surrender is a process by which one allows oneself to ask for help, to be open to help. Surrender is not a process that one can just say, okay, I surrender. One is able to say, I can no longer do this. And it does not need to be done on the mental self or state of being. It is done on the heartfelt sense of state of being. When one understands that 99% of what one wishes to accomplish, wishes to attain, wishes to heal. It is done on the heart level. One's mind is quite wonderful. However, it is one's mind and one's heart working one in conjunction with the other. That is the goal.
Yeah. Um, it kind of, for me, like this happens often too, like in client sessions where um, I often feel like knowing, like either I come in with it or the client comes in into it with like, I want to know and understand this thing.
Mhm.
And they'll be sharing and sharing, and I'll be led to ask certain questions. And I just trust that, it might feel irrelevant, but to them, but like now it's somehow, and I trust that while we're being guided, right? And then at the end, it's like, what's the answer? And if I don't know it,
Yeah.
I'll just say, yeah, I don't know, but like, let's get on the table, let's do some energy work. And I don't have to know. And they don't have to know. We just need to ask for help and guidance and trust that it is given. And whatever frequency, vibration they need, I can ask to be the channel for them, or they can just open up to it, or both.
But what I heard in what you were saying is that, they're looking for a knowing on the mental level.
Yeah.
Knowing is not done on the mental level. The knowing is done on the inner level. And in allowing that knowing to come forward, then one can recognize it mentally. One can recognize it in the feeling self. One can then allow oneself to bring to one what one needs. In our estimation, my dear, it is important to understand that when one allows oneself to move forward from the knowing self, one allows the information to come forward and it's like be interpreted in the mental self, as the mental self is the processing point, the processing part of one's own inner knowing. We can tell you when one wishes to learn, it is quite wonderful. The mental self is quite an asset. But when one is looking for inner guidance, it is important for one to understand the guidance comes from within, not from without. Be concerned. Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah, it's good.
So,
Hmm. Okay, well, the multitude said to us before we started recording, you and I
no.
were talking about some like our memories or like keep forgetting things. And their response was, it's time to remember who you are.
Yeah.
And they said that was a message for you and I. I'm wondering maybe it's also a message for our audience. And if so, is there more they'd like to say about that?
It is important to understand that each one comes to the earth plane and each one allows oneself to bring forth those things that they had decided would be beneficial for them at this time of their being on the earth plane. We can tell you there is a great deal more to each one in spirit, a great deal more to one's knowing and understanding, and a great deal more to that part of self that says, I'm here, now what? And then when one allows oneself to understand that in one's process of being, one allows oneself to open to more and more of oneself in spirit, to bring forth more information, more knowing, more understanding, as one has completed many lifetimes of learning before even coming to the earth plane. Therefore, it's like a bag, a bag of information that is quite available for each one to access. We can tell you sometimes there are those that bring information to the earth plane that is unusable. Sometimes they need more information that they had not allowed based on the fact that they had wished to accomplish something different. Therefore, they are able to connect with themselves in spirit and bring that information to them. In our estimation, it is a back and forth. Sometimes the information comes, sometimes it is released. Sometimes it comes, sometimes it is released. And when it is completed, it is definitely released once more. Do not be concerned. each one is able to access each one's own self quite beautifully, whether one on the mental level understands this or not.
Okay. I'm going to ask this question just to see if the answers are different. So they said it's time to remember who you are. So who are we?
It is important that each one has come to the earth plane for a different reason of being. Some come to expand, some come to learn, some come to experience, some come to remember those things of who they are and allow those parts to explore the earth plane and expand. We can tell you there are many different reasons to come to the earth plane, and each one who comes is an individual sense of self and being. In our estimation, there is no one size fits all. You, however, Miss Kelly, are on the earth plane to allow yourself to experience love and care. And you have allowed yourself to attain much of that. And it is in your ideal situation that you continue to explore those avenues of being. However, in our estimation, we can tell you you are doing beautifully. It is not a matter of time, it is a matter of being who one is. And when you are who you are quite wonderful indeed. Do not be concerned.
Well, that's the first time they called me by name, Miss Kelly.
There are many different groups within the multitude. There are multitudes and multitudes of multitudes. And this one is a different group, once again, that's come in to share their expertise, one might say.
Oh, wow. This one, like, as in all of today, or just that answer?
No, as in today.
Yeah, it does feel a little different.
Yeah. It's like what I got was thank you for acknowledging us.
Oh,
We can tell you, my dear, that you are quite sure that there is much movement in a direction of loving care, and there is much movement in a direction of learning and experiencing. Therefore, you have put yourself in a space of both, and you are doing quite well in your acknowledgement of being. There are those on the earth plane, however, that cannot understand that it is a both and not an either or. One can allow oneself to move forward and still be in a quandary. One can allow oneself to allow the all that is and still be experiencing on the earth plane. It is not an either or, it is a both and, as each one is a whole, complete being. Each one is not a part here and a part there. Each one is that part of self that says, I am this being and I am able to move myself in many directions simultaneously. Do not be concerned, my dear. All is love.
mm, that's interesting. Resonates.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially with what we were talking about before we started recording, like, well, if I do this, what does it mean for that?
right.
You know, so
I think what happens too is on these different groups, um, depending on what's required, they switch out. You know, they bring their expertise in when it's required, and that's who came in today.
yeah, I just think of like, I don't know, I get this visual. Actually, it's not unlike your background, but of just all these different energies swirling, and that somehow it comes through in this singular voice that you are able to channel.
It is important to understand that you are closer to your knowing than you understand. There is energy and energy and energy. It is 99% energy where we are. Therefore, the energy needs to be converted into words. And that is where it's like that's where I come in. When one allows oneself to assist us in transferring and translating the energy into words, that is how it works in the spiritual sense of being. Do not be concerned.
Yeah. So cool. I don't know how you do it, Jen.
I don't know how I do it either. It just kind of happens for me. I just open to the energy basically and open to the experience and then practice, practice, practice.
Yeah. I think I've experienced it in writing. Um, and I think I've experienced it in speaking as well, where I'm like, oh, where did that come from?
Right.
But not as
That could also be one's knowing coming
I was
through.
gonna say, I think it's my own knowing. It's not me speaking for others. I don't know if that's even the right terminology.
It is important to understand, my dear, that you have your own way of allowing your energy and your experience to flow through. And it is not in the same elaborate way that you are believing it is. It is quite simple. You are open to the energy, you are open to your knowing, and you are open to that part of you that says, I'm ready to move forward, and I am. That is how it is for most on the earth plane when they are open to allowing themselves to be more of who they are. They can be more of who they are. Therefore, when one says, oh, I don't know how that happens, and one blocks the informational flow, one cannot allow the information to flow. In our estimation, when one says, okay, I'm here, I am wanting to know more. I am allowing myself the gift of knowing, the gift of understanding, and the gift of allowing. One will allow. Do not be concerned.
Ask and it is given.
Yeah, it's true.
Uh, it's
We would
interesting.
We would also like you to understand that as one moves forward in their own sense of self and knowing, they allow each one's own information to be redistributed, so to speak, in the spiritual realm of being. Therefore, each one in spirit is able to allow the knowing and the understanding to, it's like, be distributed within each one. Therefore, as each one on the earth plane grows, each one allows oneself to contribute to the all knowing and the all being. Do not be concerned.
That's interesting. Yeah. I've heard them say something like that in the past of like, it takes a lot for us to come and incarnate as humans
I,
and have this experience. But when we do, it contributes to some sort of collective energy that, in a way that, I don't know.
it, it helps everybody, which
Yeah.
is why when we, have our own growth and we move forward in our own learning experiences, that energy helps everyone. So it goes into the collective energy.
What comes up is like people who use that ability to channel or tap into that whatever the collective energy for like nefarious reasons. We here on the earth plane would judge it as bad and harmful. Do you know what I mean?
Um, I don't know what you mean.
So, like, in other words, you're doing this, you have this ability to open up and channel information and use it for what we would call good,
Yeah.
right? To help people. Whereas someone else with a similar ability could use that ability for what we would call bad and harmful. And I guess the human part of us wants to say that that's bad. And I know I've heard the multitude say there is no good or bad, there's only energy. And well, maybe what I want to do is convey to them, like,
It's only learning,
what's that?
learning.
It's only learning, but just to like emphasize to them that there's a human pain with when learning happens in that way. And there's human suffering. And I guess, if they're learning from us, I kind of want to convey that. Like, that's not an enjoyable experience. It's very painful and difficult when when people use energy and weaponize it. I don't know. I guess I just feel like saying that. Maybe they have a response or not.
Important to understand, like there are many reasons one comes to the earth plane, and learning is the basis of the experience. However, we can tell you there are many ways of learning. Some learn through joy, some learn through experience, some learn from pain and sorrow. And it is in one's own best estimation how one wishes to learn when one comes to the earth plane. One in spirit cannot imagine pain or misunderstanding, as there is only love and it's like the energetic level, the spiritual level of being. However, when one comes to the earth plane, it is quite different, and it cannot always be recognized as being difficult before coming to the earth plane, as there is no means of experience there. It is important to understand that there are reasons for the experiences. Sometimes it is to create an issue of being where one is free to share love and care. And sometimes it is a basis for learning how to accept love and care. There is always a reason for one's being. Do not be concerned.
Yeah, I get that. Um, okay, so I kind of want to ask about um, something that we touched on in another episode, but um, I keep seeing it pop up again, so I'm just curious about exploring this idea. And again, there's a disempowering message around it, so I kind of part of me is like, let's set the record straight, but also curious about what else we might not know that they could illuminate for us.
Okay.
So there's this theory that says when you die and you go to the light, that like your soul is kind of like because your human self has been taught, or maybe the soul self, I don't know, to go to the light and then to reincarnate. And there's this theory that that is kind of a way, it's a form of slavery for your soul, and that there's actually a way to transcend that and not reincarnate. And I guess your soul goes somewhere else, or you can come out of that soul cycling, as they call it, and transcend that whole process of reincarnation over and over and over again. And again, there's some narrative that's very disempowering about, uh, yeah, how it's like it's a bad, like reincarnation is a bad thing. It's
Right.
harvesting your energy or some whatever. I don't know.
I'm sure you don't agree with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like to stay open, but I'm like, I don't know about that. Let's just see what the multitude says.
It is important to understand, my dear, that that is a claim that is disingenuous. In our estimation, there is nothing that frames one's ability or inability to incarnate. It is important to understand that each one knows what one wishes to learn, and sometimes Earth is the only place it can be learned. Therefore, if one is wishing to increase one's sense of self and knowledge, one chooses to come to the Earth plane to do it. In our estimation, it is important to understand there is no one that says you must do this or you must do that. Each one is in a state of choice. One chooses if one wishes to come to the earth plane. One chooses if one wishes to stay for a while and rest. One chooses if there is something one wishes to explore. And sometimes the exploration leads to the earth plane. In our estimation, there is no it's like no judgment involved. There is that part of self that says, oh, I'd like to learn this, or I'm ready to learn that. And I know that this is the only way that I am able to complete that process. Therefore, one chooses to come and allow oneself the learning. Otherwise, one is free to do whatever it is one wishes, wherever it is one wishes. Do not be concerned.
I like how they said they started it with saying like you're not being framed because I mean I took that to that's my interpretation of what they said when they use the word framed, like you're not being set up because that narrative talks about like you're tricked into giving into choosing, like it is your choice. And I'm trying to remember like what the heck they were saying, but like it is your choice, but you're tricked into choosing to go back because you have to choose. It has to be a matter of free will kind of thing. Uh, but you're kind of tricked into it. Is so I like that they said you're not being framed.
It is important to understand that the only one who is in charge of oneself is oneself. And if one chooses to expand, one does in any way one wishes. In our estimation, there is no one that says you can or you can't. There is no one that says you need to or you don't need to. There is only that part of self that says, I am interested in, and then moves forward in that direction. Do not be concerned.
Yeah, again, it's like I think the reminder that the multitude is always giving us is like we are in charge of ourselves. So these disempowering messages that take your power away, that make you feel that you're a victim.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much of that right now.
Wow.
Like in so many layers, not just like this topic we're talking about, but there's so much that there's so much information that will lead you to feeling like you're a victim that then breeds anger and resentment and distrust in another, whether it's another person, another system, another whatever. Um, Maybe they can say a little something about that and what that's teaching us, where maybe we're headed as a society, like a human society, like this whole victimhood, anger, distrust, separation, division, um, and maybe even a little bit about social media as part of that, because we're tapped in all the time now. And it's not just the news of your village. And like I don't know that humans are supposed to have access to that much information. And because the news knows that fear sells, it's really hard to like, as a human, to get away from that. And, you know, it's almost, we're almost taught like you have to be informed. It's important to be informed. Got to stay in the news and know what's going on. Otherwise, what? I don't know. Otherwise, you might feel powerful. I don't know. It's like to me, when I just focus on what's in my backyard, what's in my community, everything is beautiful. Like I live in a
Yeah.
beautiful community. I have a beautiful family. I'm so blessed with this piece of land that I have. And, I don't know if that's putting my head in the sand, but I can't control all those other bigger things. So why am I going to feed it my energy and cause this disempowered, helpless feeling? So anyway, whatever the multitude wants to say about that.
We would like you to understand that there are those who have come to the earth plane to allow themselves to experience as you are experiencing. And there are those on the earth plane who have come to allow themselves to expand themselves through ways of the world, so to speak, through ways of understanding things differently, through ways of expanding their experience and um, energetic reality of being. In our estimation, when one allows oneself to work through processes that one has come to the earth plane to work through, there are many avenues for one's experiences to expand. And in our estimation, it is in one's knowing self. If one chooses to follow it's like unfollowable. Follow those parts of self that are interested in expansion in the ways of the world, in the ways of the understanding of others, in the ways of being in a higher and greater envelopment in the earth, one is able to do so. And if one is interested in remaining within one's own community of being, it is quite admirable as well. In our estimation, one is no better than the other. One is no different than the other. The difference is it is what one has decided to accomplish by coming to the earth plane. If one wishes to accomplish in one area, one will. And if one wishes to accomplish in other areas, one will. In our estimation, it is important to understand that each one on the earth plane is not only responsible for how they perceive the earth plane to be, but how they perceive themselves to be. If they perceive themselves to be of a space of uh, higher and greater knowledge, so to speak, or indecision of knowing, or inability to take care of one's physical self, all of those things are decisions one has made about oneself. And sometimes, so what I got are easily changed. Sometimes those decisions are of a difficult path of being, and sometimes they are in a position of changing the information regarding oneself. Do not be concerned.
I love how they always remind me, like, put the judgment on hold. Like, people are living their lives. You don't have to worry about how they're doing it.
That's a good lesson for everybody.
Yeah. Well, I'm over here like, everyone's suffering. This is terrible. And they're like, yeah, but like some humans came here to experience that. It's none of your business. Well, okay. My way. Oh, go ahead.
By Earth standards, Earth, level knowing is terrible, is why why do people need to be treated that way or treat each other that way? Um, on a spiritual level, it's experience, and it's like, well, you've come to learn whatever it is that you're experiencing. It's like, I don't understand it because I'm on the earth plane. That's it.
Like I can float from understanding to not because I'm on the earth plane. It's like when they say it, I'm like, yeah, that's true. Okay. Just gotta
Yeah.
keep that higher perspective. But then you're down here living and it's like, ugh, this is terrible, People like this. Um, but I have a really good takeaway personally from this episode, love and care. And I kind of like, as you were saying it, it's like, I just want to stay in that place of love and care.
Yeah.
And I kept feeling this like I wanted to yawn, but I didn't want to be rude.
There
I'm
you
gonna
go.
do it now because I swear that is for me, that's an expansion or a release or something. It's a shift. When I yawn, I know it's happening. So that's really, I'm just gonna focus on that.
Loving care of self, loving care of others. However, that brings up another point is that when you have loving care of another, that's great. However, um, you need to have the loving care of yourself first and to
Yeah,
come to that place of self in order to help another and to not help another at the expense of yourself, which happens a lot.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. And you've been telling me that for a while anyway, Ginny. So
yeah,
I'll share more off camera on that. Some epiphanies I'm having, but yeah.
it just comes.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's a good place to stop. Um, Unless they have a closing message.
I do.
Yeah.
We would like you to understand that in one's own knowing is one's own experience of being on the earth plane. And in one's own understanding of self, one is allowing the spiritual part of self to come forward. In our estimation, it is right to understand that there is more to one than meets the eye. However, it is also right to understand that one is on the earth plane living an earthly life and allowing themselves earthly experiences. Do not be concerned. We would like to thank each and every other one of you for allowing us to be a part of your experience. In our estimation, it is a gift that we have received. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, multitude. And thank you, Jenny, for channeling.
You're welcome. Yeah, I always enjoy channeling. It's like it just comes through. It's easy for me, and it's just a good energy. I like the energy I get.
Yeah, I
So
bet you feel really good afterwards.
tired sometimes, but good.
Yeah, yeah,
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. I hope the information that has been given in this recording is helpful to you. And I hope you will listen to other recordings that resonate with you. So enjoy.
bye, everyone. See you next time.
Okay, bye-bye.